Now, I'd like to give you a look at what it's like to use the FirstWave platform with our current Horizon Zero offering. There are two key users of this platform, as mentioned. Firstly, the service provider, or MSSP, who uses the platform to create new customers and services. And secondly, the service provider's customers, the end users who consume those services. To show you the platform, I'm going to walk you through these actions step by step by firstly putting on the hat of a service provider and starting with the ordering process, following on with the provisioning of a new customer and the activation of two new security services. At this point, I'll change hats to that of the end user as they log into the portal and view and configure their service. And finally, I'm going to give you a look at the sort of detailed information the platform produces that enables our partners to bill their customers and generate the revenue that flows back to us. Before I start, let me say there's a lot happening here, both in the portal and behind the scenes. What I'm about to show you is only a subset of the capabilities of the portal. And I should also warn you that our normal demos go for more than 50 minutes. So what I'm going to show you here is going to be mostly in high speed. So firstly, putting on my service provider's hat, I'm now going to log in as a service provider operator. I punch in my details and I'm presented with a front page. Now, along the top, I have a menu that gives me access to security controls and enterprise operational functions and order management. On the right, I've got some other functions that give me various functions to enable me to create new customers and services. On the left-hand side, I have the N-tier hierarchy. This is a hierarchy of customers. I can see both single customers that I've created. I can also see resellers below me. And those resellers, if I open them out, may also have their own single customers or customers with many branches and offices. So the key thing here is that this multi-tenanted hierarchy is represented and controlled and virtualized by the platform. This ties back into the roles-based access system and eventually to the billing system. So the next thing I'd like to show you is the ordering process. Once the operator goes into the ordering system, there's 5 steps that they can go through to complete this order. The first 2 steps deal with the creation of the customer and the collection of the information necessary to get that customer into the system. Steps 3, 4, and 5 then take you through the addition of a service. Now I'm going to go through these steps twice, one for email and one for Firewall. So let me start that process now. I'm just going to whip through this fairly quickly. I'm adding a new customer, Relativistic Logistics, who happens to be based in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm going to add in all their details and click Next. I'm now at step 2. I'm adding billing details so that the system has the information necessary for our partners to know how to bill them, a billing frequency and potentially promotional code that adds to that can be used by our partners. Now I'm on the service activation for email. I need to set an activation date for when the service commences, and then I start to add feature packs or bundles. These are very important, and we've made it so that the partners find it very easy to configure them. These actually represent the revenue that the customer will be sending to the partners and through them to us. I'll set the number of seats to 35 and a service duration. Now I'm in the details for the email service, implementation details. I'm going to add a corporate C-level user called Morgan Wells and another one. I'll add in domain details, a username for the administrative user that will be used to control the service once it comes up, and an email address. I'll just pop one of mine in so that I can collect the information that is sent by the platform. Saving and continuing, I get to the final order confirmation step where I can check what's been entered, and if I'm happy with it, I can go down, click the terms and conditions and submit that order. The system then generates an order number for me, and the back end starts to get busy doing various functions to create that service and create that customer. And I can check the status of that by going to the order list and having a look. There's the new customer I've created. There are the feature packs that I added. and the provisioning status. Now, I'm going to go ahead now and add an additional security service to this. This time a next-gen firewall. As you can see, I'm back on step 3, service activation again. I'm going to choose the vendor from the list. In this case, I'm going to use a Palo Alto firewall. And because this demo is for a small customer, I'm going to choose a multi-tenanted service because application type, because that has the most economy of scale for this type of customer. The service term, let's choose 12 months, hit next, and enter the implementation details for a firewall. In this case, I'm choosing the infrastructure and the actual Palo virtual machine that this service will be placed onto. There's a few extra details to enter to make sure this customer's traffic is correctly routed through that firewall. Once again, save and continue and accept the terms. Now, I get a new order number, and if I close that and have a look at the list, you can see that I've got this customer and I've added a new service. That service is now in progress. Now, there's a lot of things happening in the back end while this is happening, and if I wait a few minutes, that will change to completed. Okay, so what have I just done here? What have we seen? Once the customer's created, the platform takes all the information provided by the operator, including the requirements for any services to be created, and passes this to our MANO. The MANO, or Management and Orchestration System, not only manages the virtual resources needed to create these services, but it also manages all of the lifecycle elements needed to create a ready-to-consume service orchestrated on shared or dedicated infrastructure. This includes items such as placement of those services or allocation of virtual resources, the licensing of those services in conjunction and cooperation with our partner vendors, the network routing, the name server configuration, the configuration of cloud-based services in either public cloud or dedicated telco infrastructure, the monitoring and telemetry. What does this mean for the customer? For the customer, it means they want something, they've ordered it, and there's a very short gap between that process and being able to actually consume that service. And typically, I'm talking about minutes here, not to activation, not days. So what you've just seen here is something that I did as a service provider. So now I'm going to take off my service provider hat, and I'm going to put on the hat of that service provider's customer. Now I'm the end user. So I want to make it very clear, I'm an SMB user from this point forward. At the platform level, the customer and their new services are now fully activated. So I'm just going to quickly whip through the process here. The user gets an email from the platform. In fact, potentially several emails with lots of details depending on what they've ordered. And that contains login details, which I can enter into the same portal that the service provider used, except when I log in, I'm going to see different things because I'm logging in as a user. I get the opportunity to change my password, and now I'm logged in and I see my service. So what I'll do now is talk through what the user sees when they actually start to use this service. So let me start this video. Along the top, I have access to the service, the particular security services that I ordered, and I can do various functions with those. On the right-hand side, I have various administration configs, such as seeing my account details, seeing control and being able to control the roles for the role-based access in my system. And that's important if I want to create additional users, which I can do here. I can add a new user and I can assign them the role. Some of my users might be operators that don't necessarily need all of the functions that the main IT administrator has, so you can control that. I have access to live activity logs. These are basically audit logs for everything that's done through the portal. So anytime any of my users logs in and does something, I can see an audit log here. This is particularly useful to some of our government customers. I can modify the notifications that the platform sends out to my employees. There's a fully templated configuration system, which I can edit things here. I can also manage the various parts of my own infrastructure so that the platform is aware of what they are. I can add additional security services to those also if I want to from this menu without necessarily contacting my service provider. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like for the security services that we've added. Firstly, email. The default setup that we have on day one is that of a strong security posture. That means all of these settings are set up already such that even if I don't change them, I'm already secure and safe. But I have full visibility of this service, and as emails start to stream through, I can already see activity happening here. I can search using the advanced trace system and find any email that went through my system. I can look at my security policies, and as you can see, there's a number here that have got green ticks against them, which means that our Mano, when this service was set up, automatically set these up in a best practices manner. Now, I may have some changes happening in my organization. One of my executives may have left, for example. I can remove that executive and add a new executive and update the specific policy that looks after the safety of my executives, which is our C-level policy. I also ordered a next-gen firewall for this service. I can go into the policy configuration for that. Now, this is a multi-tenanted firewall, so any changes I make here, for example, to the URL categories, I might want to make a change that better suits my organization. I might also want to add an allow rule for my domain so that the firewall doesn't block me. At the end of the changes that I want to make, I can save it and commit it. And when I commit it, this information once again goes into the back end, and the Mano system in our platform finds the right part of the infrastructure that this multi-tenanted service is overlaid on and specifically changes just the settings related to this service. And as Kevin mentioned earlier, this customer thinks they have a dedicated firewall here effectively. They have their own service and their own visibility of that service through our reporting system. But in reality, in the back end, this service might be carved up amongst many, many other customers. And when we commit a change, the back end makes sure that that change occurs in the right part of the infrastructure and doesn't affect any of the other customers that is using the same shared back end. On the report side, the reports provide a homogeneous view across all security services to provide a consistent presentation across all vendors and service types. Our unique multi-tenanting creates not only consumable security as a service, but it also creates per tenant data feeds, allowing the sort of individualized live data view that I'm showing here. Okay, so what we've just seen then is the way the user experiences the platform and the portal. Let me show you something a little bit different now, something that our partners find very exciting. What we're looking at is something a little bit strange. It's not the matrix. This is a service data feed generated by the platform. Every time someone does something in the platform, every customer that's added or service that is created or modified ends up in the telemetry data stream. Our platform has a huge amount of exportable, partner-friendly data ready to integrate into their systems. What you're seeing might not look very pretty, but for our partners, this is very exciting indeed, as it means that for each order taken and each service item consumed, they can get a live feed from the platform directly into their operational, business support, and billing systems. For our partners, this deep integration is a true enabler of scaling and revenue generation. Now, I've just shown you how the FirstWave platform gets from an order to provisioning, activation, and then consumption and billing. So you might be asking at this point, well, what happens if a service provider or telco doesn't have our platform? Can they still do this? Well, sure, but they have some massive issues to deal with. Firstly, they need to enter the service details into multiple places, and this means logging into multiple screens, infrastructure management consoles, virtual appliance web management screens, firewalls, license managers, vendor portals, network consoles, asset trackers, and then at the end having to figure out which customers are in what part of the infrastructure. And they won't have our multi-tenanting technology, so they need separate virtual machine instances for every customer, which doesn't even make sense for small to medium business. The complexity they're faced with becomes a massive resource bottleneck. The FirstWave platform removes all these pains for the service provider and breaks the barriers to scaling by enabling rapid onboarding and full service lifecycle automation through a single interface. This is what makes it so compelling to our partners.